Martin Luther King Jr. was an African-American man born on the 15th of January 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. He had a sister named Willie and a brother named Alfred. King was initially named as Michael, but later changed his name to Martin. Martin Luther King Jr. went to a high school called Booker T. Washington High School, skipped grade 9 and 12, and because he was so intelligent, he went to Morehouse College at an age of just 15. He graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Sociology from Morehouse College at an age of 19. King then went on to Boston University at the age of 22. He married Coretta Scott when he was 24, and they had 4 children together. The names were Yolanda, Martin, Dexter, and Bernice. Martin Luther King experienced his first example of racial discrimination when a mother of some white boys didn't let him play with them. The most unforgettable experience of discrimination King experienced was perhaps the bus incident. He and his schoolteacher were ordered to give up their seats to white passengers during a 145-kilometer bus ride. At that time, there was a law forcing black people to give up their seats to white people. King had said that the bus incident made him very angry. Martin Luther King was always one for civil rights and racial equality. By 1954, he was a member of the Executive Committee of the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, the leading organization of its kind at the time. He was then ready in early December 1955 to accept the leadership of the first great Negro nonviolent demonstration of contemporary items in the United States, known as the Montgomery Bus Boycott. The boycott lasted for 382 days. On December 21, 1956, after the Supreme Court of the United States had declared unconstitutional the laws requiring segregation on buses, all Americans rode the buses as equals. Martin Luther King was elected president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in 1957. The conference took most of its operation techniques from Gandhi. In the 11-year period between 1957 and 1968, King traveled over 6 million miles and spoke over 2,500 times, appearing wherever there was injustice and protest. Meanwhile, he wrote 5 books as well as numerous articles. He also directed a peaceful march on Washington, D.C. of 250,000 people, to whom he delivered his very well-known speech, "I Have a Dream." At the age of 35, Martin Luther King was the youngest man to have received the Nobel Peace Prize for his work to end racial segregation and discrimination. When he found out he had won, he announced that he would turn over the prize money of $54,123 to the support of the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on the 4th of April, 1968 at the Lorraine Motel, which has since become the National Civil Rights Museum. Martin Luther King's murderer was named James Earl Ray, who pleaded guilty and was sentenced to a 99-year prison term. Martin Luther King Jr. was a leader of the African American civil rights movement all his life. He worked so hard that when an autopsy was performed on him, it showed that he had a heart equivalent to a 60-year-old heart, despite the fact that he was only 39 years old. The main reason that Martin Luther King did what he did, stand up against what was wrong and fought for what was right, was because he believed in it so strongly. He, like many other people, didn't feel right just sitting around taking the abuse. He felt he had to do something about it. Martin Luther King Jr. was so popular that he had a United States federal holiday named after him, as well as many streets. Many people have been inspired by his actions and his words.
Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. Let freedom ring, and if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. When we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are